Hi, this is Bettina Bazziello, and I'm here with my months late third installment on creating books and ebooks and formatting them. This was supposed to be the fourth video, but I'm just gonna kind of transpose here. I'm gonna do the video on making a paperback, converting an e-file to a paperback first, before going into various ebook conversions. I did this for one of two reasons. One, I need to do it because I'm going to a convention and I have to get this book paperback ready. And second, I'll probably do the other one just right after this one, but I figured I would just get this out of the way first. So I am kind of killing two birds with one stone. So again, sorry for the late video. I've had a lot of real life stuff come up. Nothing bad. It's just been crazy busy for me, and and I don't, my work's. Technically, I should be writing right now instead of doing videos. But like I said in my first video, I kind of want to give back to people who are just starting out, who may not know the basics. Again, I'm not by any stretch of the word an expert here. I'm just kind of taking information I've, acquired from various sources, people, colleagues, friends, just anyone who has a tidbit of information to help make this process better, streamlined, all that. That's where I'm going with here. And I'm trying to get it all in one place for you to use as you deem necessary. Now, this is going to be converting just the basic file into the paperback file. The second half will be uploading it to Amazon for paperback. If you need the instructions on how to do that, stick around, watch the video, and it'll show you. If you just only care about converting the file, if you pause midway through, that's cool. We're going to be working with my most recent book file. You don't have to be a reader of my series, but if you are and you haven't read the most recent book, try to focus on my technique and not the content. I don't want to spoil anyone. But yeah, so this is going to be a file that I need to do anyway, and I'm going to pull it up right now. Again, when you're working with any ebook files or any book files in general, make sure you have multiple copies. I created a separate folder for my paperback, like files versus, my ebook files or ebook files from multiple formats, any of that. You want to make sure you're working with separate files here so you don't screw up your original work. You should be having, I back up to 4 different places anyway. I'm so paranoid. Once I lost one page of my work and I was so traumatized. I know people have lost full books, they've lost all sorts of stuff, but my experience was I lost a full page of writing, and I vowed never to have that happen again. So I'm a crazy saver. I back up to 2 external hard drives and 2 flash drives. Hey, some people go way above and beyond and go cloud servers. Cool too. The more backups, the better. All right. So anyway, as you can see, this is an ebook file. This is completed. So my other example, like I said, I didn't want to kind of show my work for people. So I did really brief examples on how to make a table of contents and, what you have in your ebook. So you can see this is basically what my files look like. Pretty simple. I have the corresponding chapter headings and page breaks, all that fun stuff, table of contents. This is the way my stuff looks. So, for a number of reasons, I kind of break down this first page only because when people open to the first page of the book, it's like bam, stuff. So, I like to make it look a little bit more like a traditional physical book with regards to having a title, author name on one page, copyright on another, and, the whatever information that you need to continue on to the next page. This is clearly states it's an ebook, so there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to have to do to fix it here. It's also been a while since I've done this, because I did the first 8 books kind of in one shot. So I'm going to have to remember certain things as I go along. So I'm going to be relearning with you. First thing I want to do is break down what's where. So I'm going to create a couple of new page breaks. Again, let's see here. I think it's Control, Enter, and Control Enter. Okay. So there's a couple of things that's gonna tweak a little bit here. Oh, wait, no. So, okay, I'll leave it like that. All right. I am just gonna get rid of this part because that's not really relevant to what's happening here. This is, again, disclaimer, you don't have to have this stuff. This is what I do. I've seen other people do it. I kind of go with, all right, if that works, then maybe I should just kind of stick with it. Again, I'm a one-woman show. I self-publish my own stuff. Most of the stuff I've just kind of clawed and scratched and taken as much information as I could to make it work for me. And if you have a better way of doing things, or you say, oh, you know what, actually, like, now that I'm looking at this, I could think of another way to do that. I hope I inspire that in you. I really do. And if you do find a better way, please leave a comment and tell me. I'm always looking to make things easier, faster, just less of a headache. Okay, so for example, we have the table of content that's linked. I showed you how to do that. As you could see, chapter 1 is CH1. We created those bookmarks in the previous video. We're not going to need any of this. Honestly, all of this is actually going to go away. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to completely delete this fun stuff right here. When I did the first incarnation of my first video, I kind of tried the paperback way of creating a table of contents. It did not work out. It does involve using heading 1, and we're going to do that now. But when I tried to make like a linked table of contents for an ebook, just for some reason that just did. I was like, oh, that's how you do it the normal way. And when I was doing it, I was like, this isn't working. What the hell is this shit? So anyway, we're going to use it this time. But again, there might be a way of making this work for an ebook. I attempted it and it just did not pan out for me. So we'll get to that too. The next thing we're going to do, right now we're just kind of getting the page breaks ready. We're removing any hyperlinks. I have a lot at the bottom. For example, a good thing for you to do is have relevant social media at the bottom or at the end of your book. And this is a really great way to promote your stuff, to get people on your Goodreads page, Amazon, whatever you have going on. This is the place to do it. However, this is going to be a physical book. People can't just press the page and have a website magically appear. At least not yet. It's probably happening in the future, but not now. So you can keep certain information on here. You could tell people, check out my books on Amazon, or go to www.bettinabiziello.com. You can tell people to do whatever it is that you need. So, for example, if I go to my previous book, this is the one that I already have completed. So what you want to do is have something, like I have the acknowledgments here, and then I have, for additional volumes, check out my website. So this is something really simple that you can do. You can tell people to go anywhere. I mean, obviously, if someone's an avid Twitter user, if you just say at whatever your Twitter handle is, they're going to know to go there. So you could tell them to do that here. A hyperlink just wouldn't make any difference. You're just going to see a nasty underlined word. So what I do is I get rid of all of this. Oops. I didn't mean to highlight that. Okay, so I get rid of all of this. And at the end of this, I just add my little thing that I, check out my website. Yay. I can probably get rid of this because it's not a page needed. All right. Going back to this screen right here. So what we need to do is create multiple entries for, your chapter headings. And that's going to require using heading 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to modify, and you're going to change that fucking font. And the size that I use is 20, and it's not going to be bold. And it should be center. So there's like little things you might need to tweak in here. Everything else is good. We're going to click OK. So that means that when I decide to make a heading 1, it's going to, if like for example, if I go to chapter 1, all I have to do is click on boom, and it's automatically fixed. Nothing changes. It's beautiful. So if I go and do that with everything here, and you make sure, because you'll know when if you screwed up or you missed something, you'll see like big gaps. All right, and the last page is acknowledgements. All right, so I did Control F for chapter. It makes it a lot easier to go through the process. Should probably have added that in the beginning, but you know. All right, so back here at the table of contents, I'm just gonna center that. All right, we're going to add a table of contents. And it's under references, table of contents. There's a couple of things that you need to do here. If you go into custom table of contents, the only thing that you need, there's 2 things you need to check here. Make sure that hyperlinks instead of page numbers is unchecked, so it associates actual page numbers with the references that you've made. And you're going to modify the font. So when I told you about how you have to go in and change certain things every single time you go into the document, unless there's a way to do it where you can create it with the template, but when you open up a new document, like the heading 1 will still revert back to whatever it was. However, the table of contents, I selected this on a random file that I was tweaking and set it to modify the font size alignment. So again, Times New Roman 12 and left alignment. It saved. Like I didn't have to go back and fix this every single time. And I noticed that with some of the other existing documents. It was just an interesting thing. The only thing you're going to have to do each time is hyperlinks instead of page numbers, and you click OK. As soon as you click OK, bam, you get a page. So I'm doing this first because it's something I'm going to have to show you afterwards. So this is associated with every single page number you highlighted. For example, chapter 1 is on page 5, and this is page 5. So you may say, I don't see any page numbers, and you would be right, because that's something else we have to add. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and insert page numbers. So if you go into insert and then page number, you're going to choose where you want it. I like the bottom of the page, and I like it to the left. Actually, sorry, to the right. Go to my thing. So, boom. Hey, look, page numbers. All right, the other thing that you're going to need to do, and this again is a personal option. I just think it looks weird to see a title page and the page number there. So we're going to click on different first page. That's just going to remove the number 1 from your first page, and then the first page you're going to see is page 2. So that's done. Easy, easy. Now, this still is obviously not a paperback, because you don't have a paperback that looked like it just got printed off your home printer. So we're going to have to tweak even more stuff. So we're going to have to first start with the margins. Well, you could do that first or after. What we're going to actually do is change the size of the pages themselves. So when you go to page layout, you're going to go to size. There are some pre-formatted sizes, but the one that we want just doesn't come up by default. You could change it to come up by default. You can always add it to the list, and that's fine. what we want to do is 6 by 9. And you can also work on margins here, but we're just going to do this first. So this is going to change it, and we're going to see this. Again, this is where I like to make it a little smaller. Just a little bit. Why is it not showing? All right, hold on. That's where there was a change some point. All right, let's see if this works. Ah, there we go. Okay. So I just said multiple pages. I don't know why I had to click it again. My goal here is to see about 4 pages per line. Again, personal preference. This is just easier for me to work with. You could do it however you want. You could work with 1 page. You could work with 12. Whatever works for you. So, as you can see, the table of contents is a little funky looking. And I guarantee the pages aren't properly associated with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on... Usually there is update table of contents here, but for some reason it's not here. So guess what, friends? We're just going to delete it. Maybe. Maybe. Maybe not. I'll deal with that later. Okay. So one of the last things we're going to have to do is deal with margins. Now, margins are custom to how you want your book to look. If you have a larger book, it might be in your best interest to go with narrow, because your goal is to have as many words on a page as possible for pricing purposes. No matter what you do for pricing your book, the biggest chunk is going to go to the printer. So you want to give them the least amount of stuff to print. This is why, I mean, again, the whole first and second page and all this stuff I had on one, it would be ideal to have it on one still. Like I said, I just don't like the way that looks. My books are on the smaller side. I can get away with it. So you do you. So when you have wide margins, so the way it was before, you're going to have some nasty business right there. This is not a poetry book. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on moderate. I like it. It's narrow enough without digging into the spine of the book, because again, this is a paperback, so it's going to get a lot of wear and tear in general. And when people push it further to read the words that are closest to the spine, it's just going to break down that book even more. So I prefer moderate. The pages, chapter 1 is going to stay the same, so on page 5, just because of the page breaks. However, where chapter 2 starts is now different than where it started when the table of contents was created. Why is this showing up? Close header footer. Okay, that might be why. The header footer was open. That's why. So I'm going to click on update field. And we're just going to do, actually I'm going to do let's do page numbers. Yeah, I have to do the entire table. So, entire table, that'll help. Yeah, so updating the entire table changes the alignment. It also adjusts the page numbers that are associated with what's up here. Because if you change the margins, the page sizes are going to change. The chapters are going to switch around a bit. So for example, let's just make sure if we go deep into the book that it looks right. So chapter 16 is on page 141. So if I go down to page 141, I should see chapter 16, which I do. Good. You can go down and examine all of this to make sure it's perfect. Just make sure that anytime you change anything in the book, you always update this field. It does not do it automatically. That's the fun part about Word. So many things they automated, they didn't do this one. Yay. A couple things with table of contents. If your book Like with mine, I have multiple points of view. I could always do a second tier of table of contents so people could say, I stopped at the end of this person's point of view and I want to jump to the next person's point of view, but it's not necessarily the start of a chapter. You can always use heading 2, and the way heading 2 looks is if I go into the table of contents again, you could see this little tiers. This is kind of shows you what's already pre-formatted. So you can always, even in fiction, you could safely do like a second tier, which shows that this is a subsection of like chapter 1 or section 1 or whatever it is that you want to do. That's perfectly fine to use. Just make sure you custom the setting and make sure that you go to that point in the document, highlight it, and click on heading 2 to associate that. You know, highlight the entire word or whatever it is that you're trying to point out, and that way it'll create it there. So I'm just going to tweak a couple of little things here. I'm just going to do a little bit of a bigger font. Just going to space this out a little bit more. That looks fine. You know, whatever information you want to have in the beginning here. Everything looks pretty good. I don't have any hyperlinks in my actual document, and I tweaked the last page. All right. Saving. Okay. Moving along. So we're going to close this out. And this is where the second half of the video starts. So if this is all you needed to know, cool. Take that information, share it with others, experiment it with your own books. Again, save a new copy, something to mess around with in case you make like a severe error that you can't come back from.